my heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild. But the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
Yes, that is very true. Horrifying scenes in California right now. There was one person who actually predicted it, and it would have been amazing if it was Gavin Newsom who predicted this and then prevented this. But instead, it was Donald Trump. And because it was Donald Trump, it did not get taken with the same seriousness. He actually talked about this on the Joe Rogan podcast. Coach Colin here, Soul Not For Sale podcast. Joe Rogan, Donald Trump. Then I'm going to be showing you a lot of images of what's going on in California right now. One resident talking about how he did not receive a evacuation notice or alert or anything. Cars abandoned. Nobody's helping. No help for locals. A case of Cal Fire, a company that's supposed to be helping this whole thing, works with the part of the California government, and the mayor is out of the country in Ghana. So let's start with the Joe Rogan clip where Trump's talking about it, and I'll be peppering in more Trump throughout the video. Let's go.
Which I think you know everything, actually, as a student of yours. but water, in Los Angeles you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And you might have a house in Beverly Hills, and they're actually thinking about rationing water. Could you believe it?
I could believe it.
I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway, and I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. You got to see this. We're driving up, and I had never seen it before. It's like Iowa. It's the most fertile land. Iowa's blessed with great land. Idaho for a potato, right?
Yeah.
But they're just, by the way, some land is good for a potato, some land is good for corn. It's the craziest thing. I love the farmers. They're great. They're the greatest. And by the way, they're getting killed right now.
They are.
They're getting killed because of this stupid administration. But so I see this, and I said, you got to be kidding. I said, you mean you have water? And I looked at it. It's like a valve in your sink, except it's massive. The thing's 5 times taller than your ceiling.
Did you know the center of California was a giant lake?
They have so much water.
You ever see what it looks like before they rerouted it?
I never saw that,
The center of California, what was it, 200 years ago? How long ago did they do that, Jamie? The center of California had a enormous lake in the middle of
So
California.
they dumped it into the Pacific.
Who knows what they did? But whatever foolishness that they did led to the situation that they're in now.
Think of those dry forests that burned down all over the world. You know, the head of Austria said,
There
you
it
know,
is, Tulare Lake or Tachi Lake. It's a freshwater lake in the southern San Joaquin Valley, United States. Historically, Tulare Lake was one of the largest freshwater lakes west of Mississippi. Show a photo of what it looked like back then.
it's a great system.
So that's what it looked like. Look at that image. Now, go to the one on the third from the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an enormous lake in the middle of California. Imagine that.
That'd be much more valuable property.
How crazy is that? But how crazy is that's what it used to look like? And human beings screwed that up.
No, they let it go into the Pacific, and then they.
I don't know what they did. What did they do? How did it go missing?
They said they drained it in 83.
Yeah, they drained it.
1983. Oh my God.
It went dry a handful of times.
Oh, it went dry a handful of times. Well, lakes do go dry, but that's a big one.
But think of
It's a big one to go
you
dry.
could have all of the water you need. All of that land would have more water. The whole thing could be like that little patch.
Yeah.
Literally, I'd say I was with Devin Newsom as a congressman and other congressmen. We were going up. I was visiting that because they asked me to go up and visit their territory, and I did. But I kept saying, look at this land. It's beautiful, but it's so dry. And I thought they were going through like a desert, like a drought. They said, no, we have water, but it gets... So I looked into it.
What is the fish?
And I got it done. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months, it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. A tree that's up, these are all things I learned the hard way, the easy way. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible forest fires in California. And I said, you got a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, that you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right because they're soaking wet because they suck up the water, right? But when they fall, they're like, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to clean. They call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen that, are like so many things this country. By the way,
could you really
rake
the whole
done.
forest, though? I don't think you could rake the whole forest.
Well, you could,
I think you can get rid of the deadfall, but raking all the leaves.
You could certainly get rid of the dead, okay?
Yeah, I think that's the real issue.
Environmentally, they don't want to do that. They said, it's got to be nature and all this stuff. But in the meantime, this is exactly right. But you could have, it was the Department of Commerce that needed the approvals, but Gavin Newsom had to sign them. I got it all done. Nobody could believe it. It was all done. I said, I got it. You got so much water. All you have to do is sign. And that guy didn't want to sign.
Did he not want to sign because that would be a political victory for you?
I think, no, he didn't. No, I don't think so. He used to say, he's a great president, and we got along. We did. We actually got along at that point. But I think somebody said, you just can't continue to call him a great president. They do say that. But we had it all done. He didn't sign, and then we got on to other things. And I every time I go to California, I said, you have so much water. They don't know it. I'm telling you, people living in Beverly Hills, they turn off the water. Same thing with the electric. They want to go to all electric cars, but they have brownouts every weekend,
Well, right after they made the announcement that as of 2035, you're not going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine in California, like within a month, they had some announcement asking people to not charge their Teslas. Because the grid couldn't handle it. Well, how are you going to handle it?
I will terminate the mandate immediately. That's
Good,
a mandate.
thank you.
That will be done, I would say, in my first day, maybe 2 days, because, it's
Let me ask you about
busy.
nuclear.
Man, so Trump was bringing this up, and it's one of those things where A lot of people on the left will hear Trump talk about this stuff and they'll be like, what is this? What's he talking about?
But let me give you one that you
learn the easy way, learn the hard way. What's this guy talking about? Everything that I'm showing you right now is going to be reposted on X. That little valve, that massive faucet that Trump was talking about, I want to show that to you guys right now, because if you haven't seen it, it is crazy. Check this out. That's what he's talking about. That's what they have access to. And it is going to the ocean. That's where that's going. It could be getting loaded up. And of course, I don't know the mechanics of everything, but there's certain planes that drop water, right? There's ones that drop flame retardant substances. There's other ones that drop water. It could be loaded into those planes. It could be put into certain farms. There's so many uses. This is what Trump means when he says you have so much water. This is exactly what he's talking about. And the fact that Gavin Newsom, I mean, not even a surprise. The fact that he wouldn't sign, it's definitely because Trump would have had a victory. 100%. The same reason why there's governors who are like, we're going to harbor the illegal aliens who are criminals. We're not going to tell you if they're in jails. We're going to stand up to you. It's all because they don't want Trump to do good things. Because the second he does good things, you have to acknowledge that he's a good president. So they stand in the way of little things like this. This is what they do. So that's why Gavin Newsom didn't sign that. But, a little detour there. Again, everything is just being reposted right away. Just look into that. That's absolutely wild. Here's the local man who said that he didn't receive any notification for evacuation and they're not receiving any help.
Coming down, we've been out here since 5 o'clock and all you see is just raining hellfire.
When did you get the notification for an evacuation?
We never did. Over here, never got the evacuation notice. Even when we got here, it was not there.
And have you seen any fire crews here? I see an engine company down there.
Yeah, we see them going up and down the street, but not helping us.
Right. Well, there simply aren't enough around. Listen, your name is?
James.
Last name is?
Day.
D-A-Y?
D-A-Y.
Good luck to you, James.
Thank you.
So there you have it. I mean, this is hand-to-hand combat, quite frankly. This isn't to put any kind of blame anywhere, because there are so many fires and intersections like this. There's another explosion. Goodness knows what that was.
Coming down, we've been out here since 5 o'clock and all you see is just raining hellfire.
Wild. Absolutely wild. Not receiving the notification. This is not the only thing that is happening. Again, there's going to be peppered in, and the Trump clips are going to have a little bit of overlap with what he said on Joe Rogan, because he has been trying to say pretty much the same thing over and over again, and it's just fallen on deaf ears. And he's been saying this since 2018. And when he talks about the whole thing where Gavin just had to sign, that was back in 2018. Also, with the Biden administration, they actually, let me just show you that really quick. They actually canceled, where is that? There it is. They actually canceled the control burns that they were supposed to do. This is according, here we go. Forest Service halts prescribed burns in California. Is it really worth it? Then there's another article talking about it as well. The New York Times even calling it out. In California, controlled fires can save homes. Why aren't more happening? Experts say these internal burns reduce the risk of wildfires and more should be done. But real barriers remain. These barriers are Gavin and the Biden administration. Now let's just switch back over again. I will repost that. Let's go back over to the clip I was just about to show you guys. Abandoned cars. People have decided to take off on foot because they're scared. And obviously they don't want to die. Everybody just saw what happened in Maui. They're trying not to have the same thing happen to them.
There's also another scene earlier. This is when a lot of people had nowhere to go. They abandoned their cars because the flames were fast approaching. As a result, LA City Fire, they had to come in because the road was completely blocked. They bulldozed all the cars off to the side to make that emergency route to clear it out. Eric Scott of LAFD and LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, they were asked about this situation. Here's what they had to say.
So questions about abandoned cars. That's a good question that has come up. Law enforcement assists us heavily with evacuation, but please remember it's an active incident. We don't have the answers to all of these questions. We will certainly look at that. That's very important. I don't know if police felt like they wanted to make a mention to evacuations. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, just on that question of evacuations, vehicles left in the roadway. If you have to leave a vehicle in the roadway, get it as far off the road as you can so that emergency vehicles can't get by. The gist of moving them with bulldozers was an emergency situation. You got to get those fire resources through, and they do what they have to do to be able to facilitate that. So we're asking really for the cooperation, and think a couple of steps ahead. It's not just your vehicle there, but then others line up behind you as well as they see what you're doing. And so I can't stress enough, please follow the evacuation orders. Do your best to be able to get out to safety. Bring the equipment you will need for the next couple of days with you, because as you've heard over and over again, this is not going to end very quickly.
But this is very, very, very dynamic. And you can just, by standing here, seeing us with the wind gusts and with the predictability of this wind's going to get worse tonight. So we want people to lean forward, ready, set, go, and be ready.
That was Chief Kristen Crowley from the Los Angeles Fire Department. Okay, so as we approach the top of the hour, a programming note. We've been on with fire coverage on Fox 11 since 10:30.
So that's what's going on there. The bulldozing. I'm wondering what was stopping the people who were leaving by vehicle, that they had to leave the cars behind. I mean, that same thing did happen in Maui. I just wonder what it looked like as they made that decision. Maybe it was just a long line of cars, but I mean, even as you're moving up and then you see the line moving, wouldn't you want to go back, get your car so you can move swiftly? You know, in my mind, what keeps coming in is, hey, why don't these people just leave the state? But a lot of people can't just do that. They can't just up and leave and grab a hotel room for the next 2 weeks. A lot of people don't have that type of blessing in their life. These people, especially these people here, are being escorted out, evacuated, I should say, out of a hospital. This is what this looks like. You can see they're on stretchers, wheelchairs, everything, because they have to get out. It's wild. I'll even read what the person has here. Watching hospital patients being evacuated on foot last night put the utter fear of single party rule into perspective, with a mayor who is out of the country. That's Mayor Karen Bass. Environmental policies that put people at risk, to having a DEI hire as the fire chief California is a mess. That is true. That is 100% true. She is in Ghana, like I said. No idea what Gavin Newsom is doing, and these people care more about climate change than they do about the actual residents. Here's more from that situation.
To the different facilities. Evacuated them to this location?
Yes, this is the location where they brought them. When I got to the nursing home, there were still seniors there, and they were transporting them in ambulances and different vehicles, even in police vehicles, to this location. Then from here, as you can see, they're taking them in all different kinds of vehicles. Even the Pasadena SWAT vehicle was transporting these elderly patients, and they're going to different facilities. Again, this is because of that fire that is just absolutely out of control right now. And we were told over 90 patients are being transported to the different facilities. But you can see here, it's such a chaotic scene right now.
Hey, everyone else, get in your vehicles and back away. All patients are good. Everyone get out of here if you can, all right? Stop moving out the area. Be careful. All right, good work, guys. Good work.
Wow.
All right, so they're asking everybody to evacuate. Let me see if I can. Sir?
Where are they expecting them to go? You're saying evacuate. Where are you expecting these people to go? You know? It's interesting, you know? Illegal aliens will be like, this is where you're set up. These people, not so much. And I know it would be hard to do just so quickly, but, you know, are we going to hear anything about that? About them getting a place to be in? A place to hold up? Or do they have to just get their own hotel rooms and whatnot? Check this out.
Palmer Avenue in Miami Way, we have this house on fire. Los Angeles Fire Department just drove by. I guess they're calling this a loss, but my concern is that this 30, 40 mile per hour wind gust, all these embers are flying downwind. It could possibly start more fire. Hopefully they're on the defensive down there. I do see another fire truck. But just look at this, massive fire still taking place about 24 hours after this started.
So like right there. Right there, you see that house there that's, you know, untouched. That wind changes direction, so they might call something like that a loss, but if it just changes directions, even just for a little bit, even just for 20 minutes, that house is gone. That car is gone. I wonder what those people are doing if they're still home. It's just such a dangerous situation. And it was just so preventable. And there you go. I pull up the Trump clip just as I'm saying that. Listen to this.
And you've seen what happened. You've talked about the forest fires. Now we're permitting and cleaning up these forests so it will reduce the threat of forest fire as well as creating jobs in these communities.
We're all to do that in California, by the way.
Yes, sir.
California's a mess. We're giving billions and billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there rotting and dry, and instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them, and we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for to fix, and the destruction is incredible. So I think California ought to get their act together and clean up their forests and manage their forests because it's disgraceful. What's happening should never happen. I go all over the country and I meet with governors. The first thing they say is there's no reason for forest fires like that in California. So I say to the governor or whoever's going to be the governor of California, you better get your act together, because California, we're just not going to continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying because of fires that should never be to the extent. They were telling me in a couple of states, I won't even mention their name, it's like a flash. Some grass will burn. It'll be over in minutes. They'll lose 2 acres, 3 acres. At the most, they won't even lose that. And here we are with thousands of acres and billions of dollars every year. It's the same thing every year. And they don't want to clean up their forests because they have environmental problems in cleaning it up. It should be the opposite, because you're going to lose your forests. You're losing them. But it's costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars because of incompetence in California. So the people, I'm speaking now for the people of California, they don't want to see this happen. They're getting destroyed. And it's hurting our budgets, it's hurting our country, and they just better get their act together. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The state of California, your administration just entered into a first-type commitment over the next 20 years to double our vegetation management and forest management. Right. I want to thank you for supporting that effort, funding that effort. We acknowledge our role and responsibility to do more in that space. The partnership was significant. It was first in California's history with the U.S. government, but we're going to need to do a lot more in the extent we can provide.
That's something I feel so strongly about. You can knock this down to nothing. You know, you go to Europe and different places in Europe, countries where they're forest countries, and they're very, very strong on management, and they don't have a problem. They really don't have, with, as they say, more explosive trees than we have in California. So thank you very much for your comments. But we're working on that very hard.
To see specifically done on the issue of forest management, and is it possible that it's also forest management and climate change? It's both things at the same time.
I think something's possible. I think a lot of things are possible. But with regard to the forests, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick. And they get up, you know, there's no more water pouring through, and they become very, very, they just explode. They can explode. Also, leaves. When you have years of leaves, dried leaves on the ground, it just sets it up. It's really a fuel for a fire. So they have to do something about it. They also have to do cuts. I mean, people don't like to do cuts, but they have to do cuts in between. So if you do have a fire and it gets away, you'll have a 50-yard cut in between, so it won't be able to catch to the other side. They don't do that. If you go to other countries, you go to Austria, you go to Finland, you go to many different countries, and they don't have fire. I was talking to a head of a major country, and he said, we're a forest nation. We consider ourselves a forest nation. This was in Europe. I said, that's a beautiful term. He said, we have trees that are far more explosive. He meant explosive in terms of fire. But we have trees that are far more explosive than they have in California, and we don't have any problem because we manage our forests. So we have to do that in California too.
Also, I just discovered underneath this post, again, reposted there if you want to see it or repost it yourself. Here, Donald Trump actually said this. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors, regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. Must also do burns and cut forest stoppers. Oh, sorry, fire stoppers. My apologies. And then he went on to say, every year as the fire rages and California burns, it is the same thing. And he comes to the federal government for money, for help. No more. Get your act together, Governor. I love the way this guy operates. I can't wait for those tweets to come back. I cannot wait. You don't see close to the level of burns of other states, but our teams are working together, working well together. And then he says more. Jeez, this guy went in on Gavin Newsom. Jeez. Putting these massive and many fires out. Great firefighters also open up the ridiculously closed water lines coming down from the north. You know, he mentioned in the Joe Rogan clip, he mentioned Canada and how it's coming down from there. That's probably why he wants Canada too. There's probably other reasons, you know what I mean? It's all fun and games, but there's things that he's like, we free up that water, we get it down there. He probably has plans. He's like, I could just do so much if you just give me this Canada and that, what's it called? Greenland? Yeah, give me that. If you just give me that, there's so much I can do here. Just let me work. Let me cook. And the Canadian government's like, not a snowball's chance in hell are you getting Canada. That's what Trudeau said. Not a snowball's chance in hell. Oh my God. Jesus, South Park was so right. Anyway, sorry. And every time he said these things, people were just like, wow, just climate denier. What a climate denier this guy is. And man, just so racist. You know, controlling forest fires is racist. You know that, right? You're on stolen land. You think you can just do forest maintenance? That belongs to people. You know that? Belongs to the natives. Somebody here, DGen Tony Mega, he sent me an article, has to do with these bad boys right here. These bad boys are big planes that take 4,000 gallons of fire retardant substance. Californians paid for 7 of these, I believe. And the person, that guy who I just showed you, he's from California, and he was like, we've paid for these. He's like, the last time there was a fire, I only saw 1 in operation. He's like, this time I only saw 1 in operation, because he's in California. They can see it all going on. He's like, where are the other 6? We paid for these things. And then, these were given, this is from 2018, I believe they did this. They haven't used them since. The chief of the aviation, Cal Fire, he said, so something could be moved from Southern California to Northern California or opposite in expedient time. This aircraft with the increased payload can drop a longer line of retardant. And they just haven't been in action as of yet. With everything that I'm showing you, why haven't these things been in action? They're huge planes. I can go here to get more of the description, but it's called a C-130H. Will have an operational speed of 368 miles per hour, a loaded range of 800 miles, an operational endurance of 8 hours, and a payload of 4,000 gallons of long-term flame retardant. Californians paid for 7 of these. Only seen 1 in operation. Where are the rest? Why aren't they out there just absolutely spreading the retardant? There's a joke there. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. This is a serious post here, fellas, ladies. Here's another clip of Trump talking with Gavin Newsom. Again, this has been since 2018. He's been sounding the alarm on this, giving money, making sure all this happens. The Biden administration pulled back on it. But again, this is something that Trump has been so aware of. And if Trump was aware of it, Gavin had to be aware of it. Why haven't they been doing anything about it? Here's the clip.
It's cleaned out and protected. You've got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests. Very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out. It's cleaned out.
And Gavin's just like, can I have billions of dollars? Can I have billions of dollars? You know what? I bet he's probably like Hunter Biden. I'm not going to say anything, no defamation here, but I bet he gets along with Hunter Biden just fine. You know what I mean? You guys know what I mean. I bet he gets along just fine with that Hunter Biden. Where's all the money going, man? You know what I mean? Where's all the money going? Homelessness, $24 billion. They're like, I think it had an impact. I don't know. We can't tell what the impact was, but we had the money and now we don't. So we think something happened. I bet the same thing's happening with all the money they're supposed to be putting towards this type of effort. And now it's showing. It's crazy that this is happening right now. Check this out. Looks like fireworks to some people. Looks like lasers to those of you that are wearing your tinfoil Speedos. In actuality, these are downed electric lines. Let me just see here. They're filming fallen electrical wires that are sparking against the trees. I know, listen, if you got your tinfoil Speedo on, I know it looks like lasers. I know it does. I know. They're saying it's not. Fine. But California, as soft as they are when it comes to the things that they care about, a different breed. This gentleman's just watching this. I would be in the car. I'd be out of there. I'd be gone. That would be it for me. I'd be like, okay, looks like the purge is starting to happen. I'm getting out of here. But no, they just keep on watching everything. Bird's eye view of what's going on. Over 1,000 homes have been reduced to literal ash so far. And Joe Biden, once again, proving he's America last. Yeah, apparently he's like queuing up some money for Ukraine again. And that seems to be what he's concentrated on. That's a bird's eye view of what's going on. Palisades, California. It's wild. It's wild, man. When it happens to these rich places, it's one thing because, they're going to leave and they'll just, I already bought another house in another place. It happens to regular people. You don't know what you're going to do. I mean, the people of Maui, they're getting hit with their insurance companies like, oh, sure, we'll give you this much money, but the house needs more. In order to actually build the house costs way more. And they're kind of just like, well, you're out of luck. And, everything's being pushed towards some bigger builder or resort builder buying their homes. And, hopefully they're not in the same situation. CNN reports on this. And, they just keep it straight factual at CNN. And they're blaming Donald Trump for this. So I understand completely. This is CNN's take on the whole thing.
He was at a press conference last night talking about the gratitude he has from President Biden, still the current president, who has offered federal assistance as much as he needs.
Yeah, and the question is, on the campaign trail, I think it was in October of 2024, Donald Trump was saying that if he got reelected, that he could withhold federal funds from California. Obviously, he has a sort of a feud with Gavin Newsom, a feud with almost every Democrat governor and senator and Democrat in general. And I think the question going forward is, could that happen? Is this something he's going to actually do when he assumes office? Because he does kind of see the federal government and the budget and the monies as his own, as to dole out as he wishes to his friends. And so I think that's the real question going forward. But it is sort of sad that this is the same president we're getting again, that there are no lessons learned. There's no sense that Californians are Americans, right? That they are struggling in these areas. 2 people have lost their lives. These fires haven't been contained at all. It looks like they're probably going to get worse before they get better, and that he doesn't have any sort of empathy and understanding about, over what these folks are going through. People have families there. Not only, you might have families still there. I have family there and friends as well. So it's just sad and still shocking.
Literally, as you're speaking, what we're looking at are live pictures of neighborhoods in LA County burning. I mean, the roof there is literally on fire.
And it is all Donald Trump's fault. See, they make these kind of segments because they don't want you to know about the segments that I've been showing you. They want you to forget about all that. The same way he'll denounce white supremacy, and then they'll be like, well, he's a white supremacist. You know that, right? And it'll be like, but he said, and they're like, no, don't worry about that. He's a white supremacist. Just so you know. I mean, let's be real here. Come on. It's wild. So right now they're trying to act like, it's so sad that Donald Trump's acting like this. Meanwhile, this guy's been sounding the alarm on this whole thing since 2018, even beforehand.
You have so much water, and all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed. And you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle. Because no place is like California. I go to Austria. The head of Austria tells me, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests. And you have all that water that could be used as water, what they call water flow, where where the land would be damp. And you'd stop many of these horrible fires that are costing billions and billions of dollars by the federal government, etc. So one thing I'm going to do for California, vote for me, California. I'm going to give you safety. I'm going to give you a great border, and I'm going to give you more water than almost anybody has. And the farmers up north are going to be able to use 100% of their land, not 1% of their land. And you have so.
And that's why I put those clips side by side, because that's what they're just saying about Trump just in the last 24 hours or so. And this is what he was saying while on the campaign trail about California. Not that he's not recognizing Californians as Americans, not that he's gonna leave them barren with no money or anything, that he actually wants to help them, not just with their law and their wild purge just running around looting and stealing things, but also in regards to their water, so they don't have to have things like this happen. He has a plan for it, and I hope that plan involves taking over Canada, because you guys aren't really using it. Come on, let's be honest. Last post here that I have for you guys from Blair White says, welcome to California, where your tax dollars pay for sex changes for illegals, but you're on your own for the annual cataclysm by fire. And again, this is another person that just realizes this is every single year things like this happen, and they act like it's just completely unavoidable. And when it really comes down to it, there's nothing they can do, but there's planes that they're supposed to they paid for, tax dollars paid for. They should be out there flying around, just spreading all the flame retardant that they need. They have the ability, they have the water. If they could just get out of the way if the environmentalists, I should say, could just get out of the way and stop all the nonsense, they could take something like this and those planes that I just told you about, and they could actually remedy this problem. Would it still happen here or there? Yes. But would it be mitigated tremendously? Also, yes. Like Trump said, get the ground damp, So we'll see what happens when he takes over. I'll give you any updates if it gets out of control. It seems like it's already out of control, but yeah, it's a wild time, man. California. And for the person who actually sent me that article, thank you so much. If you ever want to send me articles or anything like that, always go to X, because that's how it's easiest to communicate with me. Instagram doesn't show me messages from people who I'm not following, they're not following, so it gets thrown inside this spam-like bin. But on X, it just comes right to me right away. Other than that, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, pray for California, and I'm out.